Here we go. The March 1st, 2023 special Wasilla Council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, Council, please put away cell phones. If you've got personal business to attend to during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you're participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to all attendees, the meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located directly in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Vlock.
Here.
And Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. Councilmembers Johnson and Brown are absent and excused unless there's objection from the body.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ted, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. We are now at persons to be heard, a time for members of the public to share the views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. We have no persons to be heard, so we will close persons to be heard. We're at new business. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the item of business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Discussion on the city clerk records management and council budgets for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to enter a committee of the whole?
Madam Mayor, I move we enter into the committee of the whole for discussion of city clerk records, discussion of city clerk records management and city council budgets for the fiscal year 2024.
Madam Mayor, I second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Vlock to enter a committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved and we are in committee of the whole. And council, in your packet are the budget detail reports and information reports for the clerk's office, records management, and council budgets for fiscal year 2024. I am going to go through each account description beginning with personal services. If you have any questions, please wait to be recognized. Okay, we are going to start on page 5 of 16 with the general government.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we back up just for a second here? So we're starting with general government for the city clerk's office. Could you do a summary first before we go into the line item piece, please?
Thank you, Council. So to the council through the chair, really my budget, as I was preparing my budget, I tried to, with costs increasing, I tried to hold the line. Anytime you see increases, they were based on quotes received from vendors or based on actuals this year. You don't see anything new in terms of programming, and so that's really all.
Okay. Thank you.
That helps. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, is everybody ready?
Ready.
Okay, account number 10. Account number 20.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
back to account number 10, the change there is that the only reflection there would be step and cost of living increases, is that correct?
Which line items are the 10,
10,
20, or 30?
10.
To Councilmember Graham through the mayor. Yes, so with regards to wages, the assumption is a 3.96% COLA, which is a 3-year CPI average, and then a step based on the members in that group.
Okay?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just really quickly, so we have account 1030 with the overtime, and it shows 25% increase on that. Just to check why. Jamie or whomever.
I defer to, those numbers are calculated by the finance director. I can tell you the only time we utilize temp services is when all three of us are out of the office once a year at the clerks conference. And I think we're out for 3 full days.
And with regards to overtime, so currently, we have $1,500 remaining for the remainder of FY23, which I think most of their overtime is generated through attendance at meetings after hours.
Right.
And so that's why we're seeing the increase to 7,800.
And I apologize, I thought you were referring to temp services.
No, just the
I
overtime,
apologize.
because,
Okay.
so what you're saying is kind of with our actuals, is it about 6,000, but now we're looking at 7,800 then for overtime costs?
Correct.
Okay.
It would concern that FY23, that will be marginal to make it to the end of the year with what's currently budgeted in '23.
And if I may, through the chair, overtime, Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, really the bulk of it is the deputy clerk's attendance at council meetings, and then short spurts during the election.
Right, okay.
Okay, any
No.
questions on 20?
And speaking of short spurts over the election, aren't we losing a key member of our elections? Volunteer people?
Yes, we
Is that
did.
gonna, was she purely a volunteer? And we don't have any pure volunteers. Everybody that's here in the room is being paid, correct?
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, I think you're referring to the passing of Faye Palin, who was
Yes.
a longtime election official for the city. Election officials are all paid the same, so
Okay.
she'll be missed dearly, but we'll just fill her with another, kind of a volunteer, but they do get paid.
Thank you.
Okay. Group 20, any questions on that? 30,
Madam Mayor?
yes.
I'm just curious, probably Jamie, when you have legal and appeals, when would the clerk's office need legal and the appeals?
Thank you. Good question. Through the chair to Councilmember Vilak. Most of my legal work comes in, during elections, primarily. Or maybe if I have a question on the Open Meetings Act. I don't use a lot of legal services, but it would be those types of things.
What about an appeal? What would be appealed?
Appeals, so we get decisions, like right now, we've hired a hearing officer appealing a decision of the Planning Commission. So it would be appeals of the Planning Commission decisions, animal care and regulation. So, yeah.
And then, Madam Mayor, on 34, under other, we see a 55% increase in this. Can you expand on that, what that's for?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilmember Sullivan Leonard. That is our codification services for the firm that when we have, anytime we have ordinances, we send the ordinance out to what we call a codifier, and they update our code online and then also take care of our printed supplements. And the increase there, I think, was about $2,500, and it's just their cost, their estimated costs for this year.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, if I could back up to group 20. So, group insurance is up about 4%. I'm guessing that includes health insurance, and has that increase already been negotiated through the union, or because we're following union, we're still tacking onto their policy, correct?
To Councilmember Graham through the mayor. Yes, so the group insurance, which is through Local 302's health plan, talking with their representative, that insurance premium is gonna go up 7%. So you might wonder, why is it only going up 4%? And that's because it's going up 7% from our FY23 actuals. And so, what I'm indicating is that we should come in favorable for FY23 right now. So We used a really neat function in our Naviline software this year as far as payroll budgeting. And so we're able to enter that new rate and have it generate per employee in each of the departments. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Alternative question would be, what is the average rate that we pay per employee, and does that cover the employee and their family, or just the employee and then the employees pay extra for their family? How is our
Good
health
question.
insurance structured?
Yeah, so it is not tiered at all, but based on the members covered, it is a flat rate. So for Local 302, it's it will be $1,897, $1,800 or $1,897 in FY24.
Per month.
It's a little bit higher for our police department. They have a separate rate, and it is per month, paid entirely by the city.
And is that employee only, or employee and family, or?
So it would be employee, employee and family, employee and spouse, so all the different available coverages are one rate.
That's a pretty good deal. Thank you.
Okay. Account 40. Account 50.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
regarding 5010 elections, 44% increase in that. Jamie?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Councilmember Sullivan Leonard. The increase in that is this year we need some of our forms printed. And then we acquired the ballot tabulating system, was approved by council for purchase last spring. And with that, we've now have a licensing and firm hardware fee that we will pay annually. And that was in the AM when council approved the purchase. I do want to note, while we're on the subject of elections, I did not budget funds for a runoff election. That was per council direction in 2017, I believe. And at that time, the direction from the council was if there is a runoff, I can just come back and ask for more money.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay. Account 60. Account 99. Okay.
How many pieces of equipment are we covering under technology replacement? What's the rate again per server, desktop, and laptop?
Councilmember Graham, through the mayor. I don't have that spreadsheet with me. I will tell you, you're seeing a significant decrease in the technology replacement fund contribution this year. And that is because that fund is carrying a pretty significant balance, roughly in the $700,000 range. So we know that we have the library's gonna need some replacement, so I wasn't comfortable decreasing that altogether. I think going forward, and you'll be seeing this when we look at that technology fund, is thinking about how we might expand the use of that, to perhaps, if at some point we needed a new ERP system, which does benefit every department in the city, that might be a qualified use with that fund. So that's why you're seeing the decrease. And we've got, we run now, I think the city, I was talking with Steve on like 3 servers, right? Because the capacity is so much bigger, the lifespan is so much longer. And so we're seeing some of that technology requirement shrink. And so that's, along with some of these other contributions, are the reason for that decrease. And I would be glad to follow up with how our inventory of computers and laptops.
And has our rate per piece of equipment changed, or?
You know, I think what's happened is some time ago, we tried to get on a better path of replacing items. And so now that we've done that, it's kind of caught up. We're good. Many of the people that are getting computers will keep them for 5 years, maybe 7 years. And even some of the technology there is advancing to even moving to essentially it acts like a laptop, and you take it here, you take it wherever. So there's some of those advances in technology that are changing the need of that fund and creating savings to the city on those minor hardware pieces.
It sounded like you might have had something to add to it.
Oh, I was just gonna add, I don't know if this will help, but I know last year, I believe it was $300 per computer, is how we calculated it, and within the clerk's office, you had the 3 computers for 3 staff members, is where you saw that.
Thank you.
That's the change.
Okay, anything else on general government clerk's office?
Good.
Okay, we are moving on to general government records management, page 6 of 16.
Madam Mayor, Jamie, who is records management?
Under state statute and the municipal code, the clerk's office, city clerk is.
So all of you are records management also? Okay, thank you.
And so what that means, what we do is we are responsible for creating the program, the retention periods, the life cycle of a record from its creation to its disposal under our records retention schedule. Within each department, we have partners, we have designated record coordinators, because they're the experts within their department, and so it's really a team effort.
Code some of your time to records management? No? Okay.
We don't.
Sarah does, right? Don't you have Sarah do that, or Angie?
But we don't code our time. Sarah's, I would consider our lead. And we all have a hand in it, but we don't code time.
If I could stay on the general fund for just a minute, 1590, recycling. You know, Alaska Waste has added a recycling program this year. Has the cost of their program versus the cost of the program we're using been looked at? I mean, their program is pretty much you just dump it all in one thing and they sort it out. Pretty much each office would just have stuff that needs to be recycled. You wouldn't have to sort, and it's kind of a bulk thing, just big 96-gallon tilt cans or whatever they call those things. Has those two been compared? The cost of those two been compared?
I don't believe so. So I know that we went through, our original recycling firm had quit business. And so there was actually a period of time when no one was offering recycling. So then subsequent to that, somebody picked up that niche market, and that's who we've been with. So I don't know that we've re-looked at it since we discovered, since we had, I don't know when they started service, but it's been fairly recently that we were without recycling
It's
service.
been about a year.
Okay, that's something we can look
I'm not
at.
suggesting we use them,
Right.
but I'm just saying that
Yeah.
we should look at all vendors when
Yeah.
it's reasonable to do so.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. We'll pass that along to our procurement officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We are on page 6 of 16, general government records management, account number 30.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So legal went up this year by 100%, and looks to be stable for next year. What was that 100%? A difference in the amount that we're using legal, or just the rate that we're paying our lawyer?
Sorry, I don't see that, Stu.
I don't either.
Yeah.
3032.
3032 is legal, it's 1,500 to 1,500.
FY22 was 657. This year is 1,500. Is proposed to stay at 1,500. I'm curious what precipitated the increase in between 22 and 23. Are we using the service more, or are we just paying more for the service?
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, we're not paying more for the service. We have seen an uptick in public records requests, and a lot of those, if we're not sure whether the record is eligible for release, we have been sending it to the attorney for review, and then now we're building a catalog. We know what we can release, we know what we can't, including video. For instance, video of the library. what can we release, what can't we release. So that's where you see some of those costs.
So over time, then, maybe not this year, but maybe not this coming year, but 1 or 2 years down the road, as that need for legal review drops, that budget might drop.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Account 40.
Actually, if we could stay on 30, Madam Mayor, 34, same thing on other really wild fluctuations there, looking between 21, 22, and 23. Could you talk to that a little bit, Madam Clerk?
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, I'm sorry, I don't remember that far back. 21, what would have changed?
Well, we're in 23 right now, correct? And that's 3 times what it was in 22.
Perhaps, could be, that's where we have our shred services for our destruction. That cost could have easily increased and we could be destroying more records. So it's by the pound.
Okay, thank you.
Joan, I think, wanted to add something.
So in FY21, most of our payments were made to Vital Records Control and then also Pacific Building Services.
And through the chair, thank you, that helped jog my memory. Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, the company was acquired, so now we work with Shred Alaska. And so I suspect there was rate increases and then the volume of records, because they charge by the pound, has increased.
What would they charge me to get rid of 30 pounds?
I'm sorry.
Okay, account 40. 50. 60. 99.
Once again, Madam Mayor, on account 60, general supplies, kind of a wide variation over 3 years there. Could you talk to that?
General supplies, most of our supplies are either archival supplies or banker boxes. And so just depending on the year, again, if I can recycle a banker box 3, 4, 5 times, I'm gonna do it. And it sometimes just reaches a point where there's nothing left of them and I have to buy a whole bunch of new banker boxes or other supplies.
Thank you.
And the cost of supplies has gone up.
Yeah, correct. Through the chair, though, there is a fluctuation there. I recognize that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
With regard to staff development, I know that there's various conferences that the deputy clerk must attend, I believe. How are we using some of that information to kind of come to the modern date, if you will, for records management here at the city?
Through the chair to Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, actually in the past few years, the only conferences we've been attending is the local ARMA Alaska conference. And I can speak for me. I know some of the information at the last ARMA conference, they talked about features within the Microsoft Office suite that allow you to manage records where you can put retention dates and assign those. That was something I learned, took away. I thought it helped. Well, it didn't, we haven't followed suit. We know that that's there and available. I think those are also important for networking purposes to see what other organizations are doing, not just government, but also private sector.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand that and support it.
Deputy Clerk, did you have anything to add? Some of your
I just wanted to add, since COVID, a lot of the ARMA classes have been online, and we've attended some free ARMA classes that we've also engaged the records coordinators with, so.
Nice. And so, do you foresee a day that maybe we wouldn't have paperwork in boxes and maybe everything would be
through the chair to
recorded, do you
Councilmember
think?
Sullivan Leonard. So from the research I've done, Because so much of our paper we receive in paper form, there's a cost to scan and index. So kind of the rule of thumb is it depends on how, it's about a 5-year. If you're gonna destroy that paper and you have room to store it, you're gonna destroy it in about 5 years. It may not make sense to spend staff time to convert it to electronic and go through all that. So, because there's a cost to conversion.
I know we had talked about that in
Storage.
several years past, just exactly what you're saying. And so have we run out of capacity then for our paperwork?
Thank you. That's actually a really good question. We have not, Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, but I can tell you, I don't know if we're creating more records. I'd like to think we're doing a better job of managing our records and actually getting inactive records out of departments and into the record storage center. So I'm gonna err on that positive note. And there are times we've got to up our destruction because we're running out of space in the records room. We used to save money, we would destroy once a year.
Right.
We would actually over-retain sometimes by about 6 months. You know, we'd analyze it. We knew there's a little risk there, but, you know, not a whole lot. And so that's where I see the increase. We'll probably be destroying more often. Like the Matsu Borough, there's options. There's the big record center in Anchorage, where once you run out of space, you can start storing boxes there. And there's fees associated with that. Hopefully that won't be for many years.
And for records management, you oversee all of the departments through the city. Does that include police also and NATCOM?
Very good questions. The police, while technically under statute, I am the city's records management program because their records are a lot of them are very confidential. They are electronic. I work closely with Amanda Graham, who is their records manager, more on the administrative side of their records. Same with MATCOM. There are other police records, and I couldn't quote you the name of them. I recognize the terms. A lot of things within APSIN and those type of things are all electronic. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, is there anything else on records management?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
so you mentioned that the conferences that you go to are local, there's about $3,000 in travel, local meaning somewhere in the state, or?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilmember Graham. That money in there is hopes of catching a conference out of state. So a few years ago, pre-COVID, I know I attended a ARMA Northwest chapter conference in Washington. Very informative, great. A lot of those, though, like Sarah said, are moving more online. There's 2 huge kind of the premier records conferences that I would love someday to send the deputy clerk or myself to. Unfortunately, they occur in the fall when we're just so consumed with election duties. So I guess I'm leaving that money in there in hopes of a really good conference. I call it a pop-up that I see that we could really benefit from, and we'll have the funds to be able to send the staff. If not, I don't use the funds.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything else on records management? We are on page 7 of 16, General Government Council. Account 10.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Increase then for regular salary for council? How did we come up with an increase here?
Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, through the mayor. So the way we projected, I think I'd indicated we used our budgeting module. So we took like a 3-year average of the number of special meetings and the number of regular council meetings to develop our number of possible meetings through the year, and then multiplied it towards times the 6 council members.
Right, and so, well, I mean, the last 3 years, it's been pretty flat, so we're anticipating either an increase in our fees as council members or more meetings, is what you're saying.
Correct, more meetings. We remained at the same fixed fee that's currently in place.
So we get to have more fun next year.
Through the chair to Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, that's a really good question, and I wonder, I don't have the data, that's not information I generate, but we did have quite a few more special meetings last year with our grants, not our grants, the COVID money. There's quite a few more. So I don't know if that affected the overall or not. And that was unusual, we won't see those again, probably. It was that like the November, December timeframe.
Okay, account 20.
Did you talk to SBS, John?
So SBS is just generated based on the amount of salaries at the 6%. So if those wages go up, it's just a derivative. So that's probably what you're seeing the increase there.
Thank you.
Account 30. Account 40. 50.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Can we please go back to 30 regarding legal? We're going to be looking at putting out a bid then for legal attorney fees. Is that within this
Through the chair
piece?
to
Because it usually is council, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Through the chair to Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, actually, depending on council action taken, our current contract with Birch, Horton, Bittner, and Chiro is up for renewal. And so I think under the current contract, we have option for 2 one-year extensions. The first 1-year extension will be coming before council, probably in April, although the contract doesn't expire until the end of July. And then right now we don't have final numbers, and Joan, you can probably speak to this, but our purchasing officer contacted the firm and asked if there were any anticipated rate increases, and they talked about possibly CPI.
Actually, the only commentary I received back was from Holly Wells, and she did not indicate that she had knowledge. She did not provide a rate.
Okay,
And under our present contract with Holly, then what do we pay her annually? It says 35,000 here. Is that correct? But she also covers for other departments as well. So what is the total for her? Do you know?
I could pull it up.
Oh, just when you can. That's fine. Yeah, thank you.
So just to confirm, you'd be looking for legal for all departments.
Yeah, what we have for contract with her. Thank you.
and through the chair to the council, I went ahead and pulled numbers on, so we generally use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's about 6 attorneys that seem to show up on the invoices that do different work for the city. Rates fluctuate from $180 an hour to $250. So that's kind of the hourly rate in there, depending on the expertise.
Yep.
Okay. Account 50. Account 60. Account 99.
Madam Mayor, I know you'd like to go fast because you've seen these numbers 1,000 times, but this is new to us. So 5081 travel down 50%. You talked about it a little bit in your printed overview. 50% is pretty substantial.
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham. So it's kind of embarrassing, but I think there was a clerical error last year, and we budgeted more money than we needed, and it was approved. So
For the record, I wasn't involved in the budget process last year. So.
Additionally, I will say this, so there was a slight error there. And then also this year, prior years, we budgeted funds for all 6 council members to attend the full week of AML in December. And we're just not showing that kind of attendance, so I saved some money there.
And AML is shorter than it used to
And
be.
is shorter, and then also they've reduced the NEO as a hybrid now. It's part virtual, part in person. So there has been some shifts.
Okay, thank you.
And then, of course, Councilmember Graham, now with your position too, there's a little bit of funding in there then for that, for AML, since you're our district representative, correct, for AML?
No.
I represented the past president Stanley.
Oh, you're not
Gordon.
District 4?
No, ma'am. Palmer has
Your
that,
best.
Palmer has that for,
Oh, okay, very good.
but Nikki was in that position until this year.
Correct.
However, through the chair, to the council, I did budget because as former president, there's some board duties that Mr. Graham has to attend. And so I budgeted an extra day per diem travel the whole bit so that
Sounds good.
to fulfill those duties.
Thanks.
And then through the chair to the council, the other thing that is a reduction in the budget is there are no funds for spring lobbying. Since we have a lobbyist now, so there's quite a bit of change in travel.
Okay, any other questions under general government for the council?
Yeah, I'd like to stay on that and follow up on the clerk's comment about spring lobbying. You know, the lobbyist, you know, presents a consistent face, you know, throughout the legislative term there, but I know that I think there's considerable benefit to showing up with 2 or 3 or 4 people, you know, during that spring lobbying trip when we're getting down to brass tacks and budget items and things like that. I'm somewhat uncomfortable with us just relying on one person to do our bidding when our delegation is used to seeing us show up, you know, I hate to say in force, but in mass, more like it with 3 or 4 people, and blanketing the halls and making our presence known at one time, like most organizations do. I'd like to see that spring lobbying trip kept in there.
You can amend it later. I mean, I don't think it's useful. I'll just say it outright. Being in Juneau and having people come in mass, it doesn't make a difference. But it doesn't mean you don't make a difference. I mean, your communication with our Matsu delegation is important. I just don't think 4 going down is useful. But that's why we talked about a lobbyist and their position down there. If something happens, they can let us know pretty quickly what's going on. And a lot of times that's 2 in.the.morning under, you know, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's fine.
With discussions that are pretty pertinent at that time. Anyway, just my 2 cents.
And Madam Mayor, Stu too, and I know AML, we have the winter conference there every year, and I don't know if the timing is off, but I know that we went to the Hill. I know the mayor and the deputy administrator went to the Hill a lot, and we could do it at that time, or would be pertinent to do it more in April, I don't know, but I know it was happening and the halls were full of people and while we were there. I don't know if we can just do double duty there.
Well, and the hard part too is that we're kind of in our budget season at that point too, so for us to travel to Juneau when we're in the middle of the budget is difficult, I think.
I know, when we went to the Hill, you know, we gave you guys that, we had a 1-page of our priorities, and it was laid out. And that made a world of difference. And everybody that was there, they had their hand out. I mean, you know that. So the delegation gets tired of people coming in with their hand out. And the first day, that's what we did. We went in with our hand out. And then we talked about it and whatever. And the second day, we went in and we said, okay, you guys, this is our Valley delegation. We said, you guys know that we need money for the airport, water, and sewer. You guys know this. But what can we do to help you guys? And they're all going, what? You know. And I think that made a huge difference with them. Just my thought process. But I also think that if money comes to the valley, Wasilla will definitely get their share. I have no doubt about it.
To your comment, Nikki, the timing of the AML conference is such that it meets as near the beginning of the session as we can, assuming that the bodies are organized, so that we can introduce the value of AML and show AML's statewide position on things to folks right up front, so that they're not waiting for AML to testify in a certain committee and only the committee members hear that, and to show them that AML has the potential to be a significant, to contribute significantly, to their cause, or to be a significant hurdle in their path to achieving something. And it's not only that we go down there for money with our hand out, which we do. We need to have our fiscal priorities lined out. But as the session progresses, we have absolutely no idea what legislators are going to bring forward legislatively that are going to affect us. For the past 8 years that I've been down there, alcohol, we've lobbied on alcohol because it's changed every session and every year of every session, what's going on down there, and other things as well where we can affect legislatively. And this this trip with AML, I know on my trips to the various legislators up there, not just the ones in our district, which were very happy to see us, by the way, and very happy to make time for us. Some of the legislative priorities were not set. The council really hasn't talked about any legislative priorities. But so as legislation gets introduced, and the council and the administration can figure out what the effects of those are and how we can influence our delegation and other significant members of the legislature, how to perhaps soft amendments without changing the intent of their regulations can serve us better or not hurt us, is usually the case. That's kind of the focus of the later trip, is more legislative, but to assure to keep the pressure up on our fiscal priorities as well. So, just background. That's how we've done it in the past. What we would do this year, I have no idea.
Okay, anything further on General Government Council?
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Through the chair to the council, something else I'd like to point out, and Joe, or maybe you can add to it, that I do see a change this year. So you'll see under 3034 other, we have as to our line item for our employee Christmas luncheon is, and that was always generously funded by the council. We're kind of changing that this year. So we all know the price of food has increased, but yet I didn't increase the $2,500. And Joan, do you kind of want to talk about the plan, about maybe City Hall having their own, trying to incorporate,
Yeah, I think what we tried to do an entire citywide, but because of the different schedules that we have at MATCOM, police officers, their own night shift, day shift, waking up for that, it's probably not as well attended as we would intend for it to be. And then you have these other groups wanting to do something for their own departments. So conceptually, we thought about, essentially breaking that $2,500 into the different groups based on the employee numbers, but maybe still maintaining something here at City Hall for the core group of people that we do see in attendance year to year. So that was the approach we were hoping to take in the future.
And then through the chair, to add to that, it's a lot of employees seem to want to be able to share some of their specialty dishes. So we'll maybe provide the basics, meat and such. We did have requests from employees when we would fully cater it, and they'd say, gosh, Susie's such a good cook. I wish we could, I wish she could bring her famous meatballs or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, we've taken suggestions, we're kind of rethinking it. So I just wanted the council to be aware of that, because certainly the employees really do appreciate that you guys have always funded that every year.
Like that idea.
Okay, anything else?
So, Madam Clerk, I see there's $1,000 built in here for service calls for the chamber audio video equipment. Is that, are we generating additional service calls because we've done something more sophisticated, or?
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, great question. I added that this year after do you remember about 2 council meetings ago, we had that terrible feedback. And so we called the vendor in, and it dawned on me, I didn't really have a line item to pay him. So anyway, we took care of that this year. We transferred some money around, but that's exactly the purpose of that. That's to anytime we have something that needs to be programmed, it's very sophisticated, and it needs to be done by an audiovisual specialist.
Do we have some sort of priority when we call these folks, or can they just tell us, well, we'll be there in 2 weeks, or how does that work?
We have been very lucky. Our response time has been virtually immediate. They're a local company.
So overall, council's budget is less 4.9%. So will we see that with the other departments too?
Agreement.
To Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, I did want to point out to the 5081, the decrease there is partly contributing to that 4.9%, so probably not.
All right, I tried.
And if I could, under communications, we still have Centrex Communications in there, which is a tremendously expensive way to communicate, but I understand our link between here and MATCOM is Centrex, and then part of our go-to meeting maybe Centrex as well. Have we looked at alternatives there? Centrex is on its way out. I mean, technologically speaking, it's dying. And it's really expensive for the phone company to keep it running, so therefore they make it not advantageous for us to have that.
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, I defer to administration on that, on our phone system.
Okay. We have somebody maybe look at that from IT or whatever and figure out if there's an alternative.
So to Councilmember Graham through the mayor, I know that IT is right now looking at various phone options, which would include even routing lines through Teams. It actually is, I think the rough estimate was $25 per month per employee. So we would have to be looking at what kind of, do we have some redundancy? Would there be employees that would not need a phone because they currently have a cell phone? So it's actually quite a bit of an increase. It does allow for a more mobile workforce though, because right now when you have people working at home, we're able to correspond with customers through email, but we don't have folks with cell phones to communicate via phone. So some of that benefit might come through a subscription-based or a program like that.
Thank you.
And if I may, through the chair to the council, if you all want to back up another, you didn't bring it up, but I did budget $1,000 this year to replace some of our office equipment. It's, as much as I can figure, it's about 20 plus years old, and we have a couple of lateral file cabinets that just, they're not opening anymore. Kind of kick them or take the hammer out, so it's not tremendous, but I do want to replace just a couple cabinets.
If I may, Madam Clerk, I noticed, looking at the AML again, there's always a fall board meeting, which is either 1 or 2 days in Anchorage. I don't see that on here.
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, I wasn't aware of any board
Oh,
meetings
fine.
outside of the, I apologize for
I
that.
get information for you on that.
Thank you. Mhm.
Lick our wounds, so to speak.
Okay. Moving on.
Done.
Huh?
We're done.
Are we done? I've got more paper. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move to exit committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to exit the committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, we're out of committee of the whole. We are now at audience comments.
Go for it, Ted.
Okay. No audience. We are on to the mayor, clerk, council comments. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, we'll see you here at our March 13th regular meeting. That's our only regular meeting in March. And then if you haven't done it, just let me know, get your APOC POFDs in. They're due on the 15th. Or if you have filed it, just shoot me an email and I'll request a copy from APOC. That's all I have.
Councilmember Velock.
No comment, Mayor.
Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
No comments, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Graham.
Of course I have comments. A couple things, you know, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to budgets, and, you know, we've had council members over the years who thought these meetings were all about cutting the budget, you know, finding inefficiencies and things like that, and that's, I don't think that could be farther from the truth. I think these meetings are here so that we understand the budget, understand where the numbers come from, understand how they're generated, and understand how effects, you know, even small numbers affect the overall budget as we go through. So I appreciate it when everybody asks questions, and because I, you know, been doing this for a while, and I learn something new every year and almost every meeting. So I really appreciate Joan spending the time on this, because it is critically important to the way the city functions, and I thank you for that. Secondly, for the clerk, you know, this is what's coming up. Do we have an electronic version of this?
Yeah, sure do. Looks to me like you had some issues downloading, so we'll look at it after the meeting.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that I have something electronic to refer to, and I appreciate that. And I think all city council members got the email through Joan about the collective bargaining agreement with 302, Local 302, which, has that been ratified by the members yet? Or, okay, so it has been ratified by the members and is now, will now come towards the council on May 3rd or March 13th. It will be on the agenda there. So this is the, I did ask, sorry about that. I did ask the clerk to print me a copy, and because I'm always uncomfortable with the fact that we spend sometimes months and well, even sometimes years, you know, negotiating these bargaining agreements. Then they come to council, and you have, you know, 10 minutes to decide whether to ratify it or not. So I'm sure the clerk would be happy to provide you with a copy of that so you can review it prior to the March 13th meeting, when any questions that you have. And, now that we don't have this, confidentiality thing going on with the executive session, like we had before, get those questions answered. And I'm sure whatever questions we have, if we can get those to Joan before the March 13th meeting, that would certainly be helpful for folks making their decision and understanding more what's going on here. Because 302 is really a critical contract for us, because we do get our health insurance for our non-represented employees and for our represented employees through Local 302. They are essentially our health insurance provider for the city. So if we understand that contract a little bit better, obviously we're not involved in the health insurance stuff. They pretty much just come out and say, well, it's $1,837 or whatever that number was. That's kind of what it is. But understanding that relationship with 302 is really important. And it doesn't sound like we have that many members in 302, but we're not a big city. So we actually have a pretty good chunk of our employees represented by Local 302. So I encourage everybody to take a look at that. It'll be available, obviously, when the packet comes out, but if you'd like a little bit more time to look at it, I'm sure the clerk would be happy to provide that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, the rest of the council.
Joan?
To the council through the mayor, and I agree that it's a lengthy document to begin with, so I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that similarly with the WPDEA contract and this one, there is included in there a summary of significant contract changes so that it will make your review a little easier.
Okay. Councilmember Rubio?
Just a heads up, I will be calling in for the March 13th meeting. I do have a conflict, so I will get online.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate all you guys' time. We will get through the budget, hopefully.
Do we have other meetings already scheduled for the
Oh,
budget?
yes, you have the, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're all online, and then you were given the calendar. I can give it again, yeah.
Take a picture of that.
And with nothing else to come before the council at this time, we are adjourned at 6:57.